B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here in Sunny Isles. I believe this is one before last shiur in this location. I think the last one is going to be on Sunday, Be'ezrat Hashem, if I got my calendar right. Yeah, Sunday, I think. Stay tuned for a new location, address, and all that stuff. So tonight, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll do another Stump the Rabbi shiur with you guys asking questions, Kadosh Baruch Hu giving us answers, Be'ezrat Hashem. But as we always start with Darkenu B'Kedusha, we'll start with a couple of interesting Divrei Torah that I thought about today, and I think we'll probably answer quite a few questions that we have sometimes, trying to make sense of things. Today's shiur will be for refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Orit Bat Ilana, Talia Bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, David ben Nesriya, Doris Bat Jora, Esther Bat Zipora, Joshua ben Noach, Serach bat Batya bat Sarah, and also for Atzlacha Rabba for Yitro ben Avraham, Marsha bat Sarah, Shaul ben Farzane, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, and all of Am Yisrael, especially the ones that are partners with Irgun Be'ezrat Hashem to help Klal Yisrael do tshuva, either with their money or with their time or with their skill set. Baruch Hashem, we keep getting more and more people to join Team Be'ezrat Hashem to do all types of interesting things, and it's amazing that there are so many talented people on the team that each day we have, new ideas, new things, where people are just, seriously interested in using their talents to help Am Yisrael do tshuva. And really, when I spoke to Rabbi Ephraim one time recently, where someone came up with an idea to do a sweatshirt, and asked him what did he think of it, just generally speaking. He said, as far as modesty is concerned, of course, this is catered for men, not for women. But the point being is, what do you think? And I run everything by him. And he says this to me, and it's the sentence that's priceless. He says, any gimmick that you can possibly use to get Am Yisrael closer to Hashem, do it. That's it. Anything you can do. Whether it's a USB or a CD or it's a movie or it's a blog or it's a newsletter or it's whatever it is, whatever you can possibly do, that maybe this is going to be the one thing that's going to get this guy and not another guy. And that's really what we've been doing over the last 6 years, trying to get Am Yisrael closer to Hashem with every tool that we have, every idea that we could possibly, B'siyat Dishmaya, of course, utilize to get Klal Yisrael closer to Hashem, because it's amazing how Hashem will send you ideas, and you never get, naturally, I say, why would this even work? But when you remove yourself from the equation, when you remove your own, this was my idea, that's where it worked, when you simply realize Hashem gave you that idea because there's something to it, maybe you should utilize it to get people to do tshuva. And if it works, it's Hashem. If it doesn't work, it's Hashem. What do? You just press buttons to make it look realistic. That's pretty much it. And when a person simply does that, Shtabach Shemo Lahad. So we have so many different ways that people have been doing tshuva. There's one thing that's one of my, it's like a interesting secret tool where not many people know about it, but just about 3,000. Just about 3,000 people know about it, which is the TV channel that we have. We have a channel on this system called Roku, which is like online television. You subscribe to it and so on. We don't recommend TV for anybody, but if you already have the system, then at least you'll have some Divrei Torah. And so we already have this thing for a while. And I never really looked at the numbers. Okay, this is just another thing we pay for it. Hopefully maybe somebody is going to watch Divrei Torah on it. And I noticed that we have, there's a ton of Christian channels, ton of them, and one Jewish channel. Who? Us. That's it. There's a few others that pretend to be Jewish, but they're, either Reform or Messianic and so on. So I said, okay, maybe Bezrat Hashem, somebody's going to look up something Jewish and find us. Right now, Baruch Hashem, I got numbers recently. He said there's over 3,000 avid watchers. And I already have personal stories from some that said they did tshuva through it. Oh, I found Rabbi Reuven on Roku. I said, wow, I didn't find me on Roku, but you found me. Another one is the podcast. We have a podcast for anyone that is traveling in the car for a while or whatever. You like podcasts. Some people love podcasts. So we have a podcast on Apple, on Google, on all these different media outlets where you could listen to the Musar Pirkei Avot series. Every week we publicize one or two of the lectures, which is plenty of information for anybody. It's usually 3 hours a lecture. And one of my students from New York says this is his thing. He says, you have to let people know about this podcast. It's the best. It helps me, this, that. I said, honestly, for me, thank you. I said, for me, I don't know. I don't even know how to use a podcast. I never used a podcast in my life. But it's another tool. We used it. We started it, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I would say. And Baruch Hashem, there's quite a few people that are avid watchers or listeners to this podcast because that's their choice. That's what they wanna. That's how they want to drink their Divrei Torah. So anyone that listens to podcast, you have emet through the podcast. You go to the type in Bezrat Hashem, or I think type in my name or both, and you'll find us there. And again, this is another convenient way. Now, my personal favorite is the app. And the reason why is, especially now that we updated it. After almost 9 months of Mesirut Nefesh, back and forth, updating, fixing this, that, we released recently another updated version of the app. And it's truly amazing because it has a feature in it I don't think you're going to find anywhere else. Where aside from the fact that it's kosher and better than YouTube or Facebook or anything else, because the app is just the app. There's no commercials, there's no distractions. You put on the app, you can watch the video or you could listen to it, whichever one you prefer. All of our shiurim, both myself and Rabbi Chaim. So you have one central place for all of the shiurim. You could also do some other things there, like, donate maybe if you want. But aside from that, we have a new feature, which is questions and answers. So the few, we have, I don't know how many subscribers we have, but the few people that are using it love this feature, and they're starting to send questions. And I try to answer the questions usually once a week. I answer all the questions at once, and it's usually a bunch. And quite a few people already told me this is the greatest thing in the world. Because it's not just that they're able to ask questions, but they're able to benefit out of other people's questions. Because sometimes you had the same question, but you didn't ask it. Sometimes you didn't even think about this question, but you like this question, and now you enjoy the answer. So I like this feature a lot, and my hope is that Bezrat Hashem will eventually transition from the WhatsApp terminal that I have to the app, because every day now we answer hundreds of questions on WhatsApp, which is unbelievable, Hashem, but very, very time consuming. But realistically, it only benefits individual parties. So if everybody could start asking their questions on the app, you still have your anonymity. No one knows who you are anyways. You don't have to worry about that part. but you could at least let other people benefit from what you learned. So on the app, we could answer the questions in text and also in audio. I personally prefer audio because it's easier than typing, but sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that. So highly, highly recommend people to use the app. I can tell you that most likely if people pay attention and they want their questions answered, most likely I would say it's going to become more and more likely that you'll get your answer faster from the app than you will get from WhatsApp. Just simply because there's with WhatsApp, it's individual kiruv. With the app, I could answer your question, but also help whoever else is paying attention and listening. And it's also stored, and B'ezrat Hashem will put it on the website too. So another way to help Am Yisrael do tshuva. A few people are jumping on the offer of the USBs. They like it. Anyone that hasn't heard about it, the USBs are on the website. 400 plus hours of Divrei Torah. I think it's a enormous amount of Torah where if you actually study it, you're going to change as a person. Just one woman today took the initiative even a step further. Her and a few other people, where they're not only listening to the series of the Musar Pirkei Avot, but they're also doing it with the book that I recommend. So they're following along what I'm reading and what I'm saying, or at least part of it. Highly recommended. And she's saying that this already, she's only up to, I think, maybe lecture number 15 or 20 out of 180, and she already feels like it's changed her life dramatically. So, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Now, with that being said, we see that a person has a unique ability to transform themselves unlike any other creature in the world. Rabbi Yaron alav shalom said that if you look at it and you study the issue of Tumah v'Tahara, which is perhaps the most difficult subject in Judaism, which is purity and impurity, not very applicable to today because we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, we really don't have a way to purify all of the things that make us impure. Like, for example, all of us have a impurity of the dead. Either because you've touched somebody that died, or you touched somebody else that touched somebody that died. And pretty much everyone in the world has this. And there's no way to purify it until we have the Bet HaMikdash, and the Kohanim will use the red heifer as part of the process to purify all of Am Yisrael. But there are certain things, like for example the Tumah of the Nidah, where a woman that goes to the mikveh every month, she's married, she purifies herself, and the Zohar Kadosh says that there's no Tumah stronger than the Tumah of the Nidah. Meaning the Tumah of the Nidah is even stronger, has more power to affect people than the Tumah of dead people. Now this doesn't chas v'shalom make a woman bad or evil or anything like that, chas v'shalom. It just means that this is just one of those places where a person needs to be very, very careful with with his wife, if he's married, to make sure that they're only together and even touching hand to hand when she's pure, which is approximately half the month. And needless to say, to limit any type of touching whatsoever before marriage, simply because this creates a lot of problems in a person's life. And many times the people that come to me with their major issues, whether it's sickness, financial problems, marriage issues, children issues, all types of issues, 9 out of 10 times is because of immorality. Immorality either because they're married but they don't know how to be together with their spouse in a kosher way, or because they're promiscuous, or because they waste seed, or because a number of other issues that people have, where the immorality in this generation is running rampant. So much so that there is a group of an enormous group and growing group, unfortunately, of homosexual people that are celebrating their public sins against Hashem by having parades about it, and the public thinks it's normal. Now it's bad enough, homosexuality has always existed, even at the time of Noach, which was actually one of the biggest reasons why Hashem destroyed the world. Now, there's always been homosexuality. But only twice in history was it celebrated. Time of Noach and today. Other times, people would, generally speaking, hide it. Now last time, Hashem destroyed the world. This time we have a promise from Hashem that He's not going to destroy the world with a Mabul. But we don't have a promise that He won't destroy the world. Now, I don't think necessarily that Hashem is going to destroy the world like He did with the time of Noach, but we see that man has enough power in his actions to not only change himself, but change the creation and influence the Creator. Now, when it comes to impurity, everything in creation, once it's impure, it cannot become pure again. So if, let's say, there's an animal that became impure, there's no way to purify it. There are bugs. Bugs are always impure. Torah talks about it. And also there's specific types of reptiles and things like that that are also impure. There's no way to purify them. Everything that's impure stays that way, except man, except a human being. Where a human being, a Jew, can make themselves pure even if they were the most impure person on earth. Even if they were as bad as Menashe. Menashe was an evil Jewish king at some point that became a Kadosh, the symbol of tshuva. But it was a very difficult tshuva, it was a very painful tshuva, but nonetheless, he did tshuva, the Gemara says. But he made every sin under the sun. You name it, he did it. Murder, stealing, rape, incest, name it, everything. He murdered his own grandfather, which was the prophet Yeshaya. The prophet Isaiah, you see the book of Isaiah in the Torah, that was his grandfather. He cut him to pieces. And he murdered a lot of people, but in the end, he did tshuva after HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him one last chance when he was caught by a bunch of cannibalistic goyim that were decided to cook him. It's in the Torah, it's in the Tanakh. They put him in a big pot and they started cooking him. So in the beginning, Menashe started praying to his idols. Idol A, save me. Babkis, nothing. Idol B, nothing. The sun, nothing. The moon, nothing. The Buddha, nothing. Yoshke, nothing. Everything you want, nothing. Tried everything. Everything failed. Finally, he got to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you're real, you save me right now, and I'll do tshuva. The Chabim say, look at this chutzpan. Not only does he go against Hashem, kills a bunch of tzaddikim, not only does he make every possible sin under the sun, but he prays to idols. Before he prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, after all of that fails, then he goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he has the nerve to make demands. Like, if you save me now, then I'll do tshuva. Like, I won't do tshuva now, unless you save me. But this also shows us how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves his kids. Where he knows how stupid we are sometimes, and how many mistakes we make, and how we don't know right or left sometimes, because we think that the sin is delicious, we think that the sin is good, and we make the sin, we become addicted to it. But then finally we call on HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we say, Hashem, I'll do tshuva if you save me. And Hashem knows our heart. It's one of our 13 principles of faith, is that Hashem knows our thoughts, meaning He knows what's in our heart, He knows what's in our mind. You don't have to say it. Hashem already knows it. And He knew that Menashe was genuine. And not only did He saved him in a miraculous way, that while he was being cooked in a huge pot, He made this pot the first UFO. The first UFO. The pot started flying in the air, all arrived in Yerushalayim. That's what Tanakh says. Pot flew up in the air and arrived all the way to Yerushalayim. And at that moment, Menashe obviously knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one and only God, and he did tshuva. And the Gemara, Masechet Sanhedrin, says that Menashe did tshuva, but it's only mentioned at the end of the Tanakh because the tshuva that he did was not completed during his lifetime, because there were certain sins that he made that he couldn't fix while he was alive. For example, the idolatry that he did, there were certain consequences of the idolatry. So until all of the idolatry was removed from the world that he brought into it, his tshuva was not complete. So this was many, many years after he died, but nonetheless his tshuva was complete and he has a share of the world to come. So here we see that a person can transform themselves from being mamash tameh, impure as impure gets, to being so tahor that we mention him in a Shiur Torah, that we mention him in a Tanakh, that we mention him in the Gemara, that we learn from him. That's the power of a human being, of how great they can get to, but also how lowly they can be. Now, there are times that we say stories from the Midrashim or the Gemarot that some people have a hard time believing. For example, the Midrash says, how come Am Yisrael, which were numbered in the millions, how come they didn't just pick up and leave Egypt? Why don't you just go? Hey, Mustafa, I'm out of here. What's he going to do? Kill you? Okay, so make a protest. Look what's happening in New York, in Minnesota, and everywhere. 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people protesting. The cops pretty much gave up. They're like, yeah, just ruin everything. They don't want to deal with it. They're destroying public property as if it's a mitzvah. Police don't even want to do anything about it. Why? What are you going to do? 50,000 of them. In order to do something about it, you have to start killing people. It's hard. So they gave up. So why did Am Yisrael do the same thing? Why did Am Yisrael just say, listen, we're numbered in the millions. In fact, there is even more of Am Yisrael than there is Egyptians. A lot more. So let's go. We run towards the exit. A few of us are going to die. A few of us are going to live. Yalla. Sacrifice. And the Gemara says, few reasons. One of the reasons is because Hashem instilled fear into Am Yisrael. They were afraid of the Gehinom. Just like an elephant is afraid of its owner that holds on a little leash. You ever guys in circus? You got this owner that's the size of like the half a leg of the elephant, and he has a leash that belongs to a dog, but he put it on the elephant. But this guy is controlling this giant elephant somehow. Why? The elephant's scared of him. Am Yisrael was scared of the Egyptians. As part of the whole situation that was happening there, Hashem instilled fear into Am Yisrael to be scared of the Gehinom. Now, one of the reasons why they were scared of the Gehinom is because anytime somebody tried breaking out, something terrible would happen. What would it be? The idols of the Egyptians would come to life. There were huge, giant idols in the borders, and as soon as the Jews would come close to the exit, the idols would come to life and start screaming and scaring them to death. Now, until I mentioned this last part of the idol, piece of stone coming to life, very easy to understand the rest of the story. Once I go into this mystical teaching of a piece of stone coming to life and scaring people, now that gets a little tricky for some people. Why? They don't want to believe in stuff like that. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to give you the answer, of course. How could it be that an idol comes back to life? Comes to life. Starts talking, starts yelling, starts beating up people. How could it be? No, Sutton?
Possessed by demons.
Possessed by demons. It's a good one. You know, who has another one? Who has another one? Now that answer would be a good answer, but then you're going to have to explain to me another answer then. Elisha Hanavi. Elisha Hanavi, he was Kodesh Kodashim. And it was this poor woman who was married for many, many years, never had a kid. And she came to Elisha Hanavi. She was hosting him. She was hosting him, taking care of him. He was such a good host. Very tough to find good hosts. This woman was hosting him with a husband, but no kids. He sees there's no kids. She says, BT, my daughter, tell me, I'm going to go pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the king. I'm going to go talk to the king. What do you want? Tell me what you want. Not because he doesn't know what she wants. It's good for her to say it. She says, my dear prophet, my dear Rabbi, don't pray for me. Pray for Am Yisrael. If you're already going to pray, pray for Am Yisrael. She doesn't have a kid. She's married 20 years. No kid. What does a woman want when she's married? Kids. Sarah Yimenu says, if I don't have a kid, it's better if I just die. All the imaot, all the matriarchs, they were having problems having kids. Didn't have the ability to have kids. Kadosh Baruch Hu made them have a problem because he wanted to hear them pray. A woman naturally wants to have kids. So when a woman doesn't have kids after 20 years of marriage, you ask her, what do you want? The prophet's going to go talk to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And Kadosh Baruch Hu talks back to him. In so many words, you can ask for whatever you want. This is your chance. Instead of saying, listen, do me a favor, Rabbi, tell Hashem to give me a kid. Just one. 2 if he wants. 5, also better. But 1, Baruch Hashem. Instead, she said, no, go pray for all of Am Yisrael. What a tzadikah. So the prophet says, Elisha Hanavi says, in 9 months from now, you're going to have a kid. Nature is going to change for you. Why? Because you love Am Yisrael. So now the kid is born, 9 months later, Yishtabach Shemo. And then something happens. The kid gets a high temperature, dies. Baby, dies. Shem Yishmo. She doesn't lose a beat. She runs to the prophet. Yes? Kvod Harav, you prayed for me to have a baby. What's the point of praying for me to have a baby if it's just going to die a few months later? What's the point? And he says, not to worry. Gehazi, take this stick, my staff, and go touch the forehead of the baby with the staff. It'll come back to life. Gehazi made fun of this. Not in front of the prophet. He went outside and he started talking to me. He goes, you think this stick brings life? Doesn't, right? You think this brings life? This is Gehazi, this is the Rabbi. Rabbi, he's a big rabbi. He heard all the lectures of Elisha Hanavi. All the lectures, but he still made fun. Because he didn't believe, what is it? A stick, a piece of wood is going to bring the kid back to life? Doesn't make any sense. So he started playing around with it, and he saw a dead dog in the street. Dead dog. So he touched the dog with the stick, dog's back to life. Goes, gets to the kid, touches the kid, kid's still dead. Nothing happens. Why? You already used it. Woman comes back to Elisha Hanavi, says it's not working. Elisha knew what happened with Gehazi, he made a mistake, or what he did. Elisha himself goes, sees the kid, and brings him back to life. Yishtabach Shemo. Now, back to Sutton. If you're saying that the statues had a demon in them, it's a nice answer. That's why they were able to come back to life. But we can't use that same answer for Elisha Hanavi.
Well, I mean, this time there's an angel in there.
Ah, there's an angel in this one. One's an angel, one's a son. Okay, see, Sutton's smart. But what if I tell you it's not an angel and not a demon? No angel, no demon. What's the next answer? Hashem is inside the stick. Thank you. Hashem make it happen. That's an answer. It's what you guys are saying to me. No. Think. What does it mean? I have a stick. Go touch. Use this piece of stick. Use this piece of bottle. And go dip in the water. What? What happened? Somebody comes. Says, Rabbi, we want to have a baby. We're married 5, 10 years. We want to have a baby. Rabbi says, no worry, B'ezrat Hashem, 1 year from now you're going to have a baby. A year later they have a baby. No stick. No water. Rabbi said, They have a baby. I saw this with my own eyes. How come? No stick. Emunah Chachamim? No, but we can't have Emunah Chachamim with Egypt. It still has to be the same answer. So the answer is, Rabotai, half of what you said. Emunah. What does that mean? Unlike all creation, a human being has the ability to change itself, in so many words. And so much so that they could go from being impure to pure. And if a person understands their own power, they could literally instill power into the domem. They could instill power into something that's otherwise just a solid nothing, lifeless. So the Egyptians had many different types of witchcraft that they used, and they utilized that witchcraft in order to instill life into the idols. Now, many people can read different type of witchcraft books, try the same trick, and it doesn't work. On the other hand, on the positive side, Elisha Navi was Kodesh Kodashim. He instilled life into a piece of wood. And the wood brought somebody back to life. On the other hand, somebody comes to Rav Ovadia, somebody comes to Rav Yagen, somebody comes to many Rabbanim that's documented throughout all of history, and things happen. Something supernatural. One of the famous stories about Rav Salman Mutzafi that I mentioned to you guys last night. He was a very famous Mekubal that made open miracles. People witnessed them. People witnessed these miracles, thousands of people. And every so often he would do it to give chizuk to people. And he was a Kodesh Kodashim, Talmid Chacham, Mekubal, according to all opinions. Sephardic, Ashkenazi, doesn't make a difference. His son today is one of the Gdolei Ador, Rav Ben Tzio Musafi. Now, one time, one of the famous stories that was witnessed by countless people is Rav Salman Musafi, Allah Shalom, told many of his students, we're going to go pray at Kivrei Tzadikim, at the grave sites of the Tzadikim in Tveria, Tiberias. We'll go pray there. So, a bunch of people showed up, and they all went. When they got to Tveria, one of the little kids ran across the street, and a truck ran over him. Crushed him. Shem Yishmel. Body's laying there on the floor. Everyone is in shock. Ambulance shows up. There's still a little life, but the guy at the ambulance says, Kvod Harav, we're sorry. You don't see it, but his insides are completely crushed. There's no way he's going to survive. Rav Salman Musafi says to the Keilah, says, okay, let's go to the kever of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. Let's go climb, go to this kever, pray over there, and then we'll go to the hospital, see the boy. Okay. Everyone's nervous, everyone's crying, and they go to Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. They pray over there. After they finish, they go to the hospital. Rav Salman Musafi goes in by himself. He sees, doctors tell him, Kvod Harav, we're sorry. Kid's not going to make it. There's too much damage. The little boy is not going to make it. So why don't you just, maybe you could say Shema Yisrael next to him. Maybe you could blurb out a word or two before he dies, and that's it. Rav Salman Musafi says, it's not possible. It's not possible his kid's going to die. Right? No, Kvod Rabbi, he's crushed. Finished. The truck, 18-wheeler, ran over this kid. It's finished. It's nothing. It's not possible. It's not possible he's going to die. Why not, Kvod Rabbi? So we prayed. We just prayed. We just went to Rabbi Mibanes, we prayed over there. We're doing a mitzvah. It's not possible he's going to die. I'm going to go inside. Okay. No one knows what's going on here. Just like you. Rav Salman was happy. Sees his boy. Comes back outside. Tells the doctor, okay, I'm going to take him out. I'm going to take him with me. If you unplug him from the wires, he's going to die instantly. It's on me, don't worry. In those days, you could do stuff like that. Today, you'd say something like that, they're going to arrest you. Don't try it at home. Unless you have someone who's happy. If you die, you can still do it. So he goes inside, unplugs everything, comes back, the kid's walking, nothing happened to him. Not a scratch. Zero. Everyone saw it. Nothing. Walks out. Hundreds of people watching this. They have no idea what just happened. The doctors, how's it about 2 seconds ago, we were inside, we saw the kid, crushed, finished. So, what happened? So nothing happened. I told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how could it be? We went to go do a mitzvah. We went to sanctify your name. How could it be that one of your children is going to get hurt doing a mitzvah? How could it be? And on top of it, we prayed. How could it be? Hashem said, I agree. Everything's fixed. Now, if this story wasn't witnessed and written in papers and things like that, people would have a very hard time believing it. But this is, Rabotai, the answer. The answer to the question that we started the day with. You see, when a woman comes to a Rav and asks the Rav, please give me a blessing, and the Rav gives her a blessing that she'll have a kid, or she'll find a zivug, or whatever the blessing is, or you'll be healthy and so on. If the woman believes in the Rav, believes that the Rav's blessing will come true, believes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays attention to the Rav, like believes it, not 90%, not even 99%, 100%. She herself instills power in his blessing. When Rav Musafi was praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring this boy back to life, there was no doubt in his mind that this is going to happen, that the kid's going to come back to life. And that's why it happened. When Elisha Navi saw the poor woman, didn't have a boy, he had no doubt in his mind that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to give her a boy. And on top of it, when the boy died, he took a stick, and he believed 100% that giving this stick and giving it to his helper and having this stick touch the boy is 100% going to work and put life into the kid. His emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's unlimited power, unlimited glory, instilled power into something that otherwise is lifeless. When we believe in something, we instill power in it. Now, this has enormous, enormous ramifications into our day-to-day life. Now, I don't believe any one of us is going to plan on becoming Rav Musafi anytime soon, because it requires you to study Torah 20 hours a day too, also, not just say the kid come back to life. But the reality is, many of us want our words to come true. This is why it's critical to start working on our bitachon, our emunah, and our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But even more so, to be extremely careful with the words we choose when we speak to other people. Because what happens is, sometimes somebody makes you upset. So what do? Something not so nice. Yell at them, scream, maybe even curse them out, maybe insult them, maybe remind them of something horrible they did 1,000,000 years ago, or last week, whichever one. Tell them they're a loser, tell them they're not a winner, tell them all types of things. what you're not realizing is that your words, whether you mean them or not, are actually causing something to happen. Sometimes I meet young people and they ask me simple questions. They ask me, Rabbi, do you think I could one day be a rabbi? Sure, why not? But I don't understand what I'm reading. Okay, so study harder, you'll understand. But you really, really think that I'm going to be a rabbi one day? I said, yeah, why wouldn't you? So I don't know, nobody else thinks so. Rabbi, do you think I could be successful in business? Sure, why not? But I don't really know how to add, subtract. I'm not very good at anything. So what? You can still be successful. Rabbi, you really believe I can do all this? Yes, 100%. Wow, you're the only one that says that. And I see the story over and over again. People that do not believe in themselves and are surprised that I tell them they can do whatever they want. How come there's so many people that have such a low self-esteem, such a low evaluation of themselves? How come? Because that's what they heard their whole life. They wanted to do something, but somebody told them, usually somebody that's important in their life, they can't do it. I want to build this. Abba, what do you think? No, son, it's too big for you. Don't build it. It's too much for you. Go do something smaller, something more like, no, something small. Don't do big things. Why would you want, you want to fail? You don't want to fail. Just do something small, kid. Abba, I want to open a store. No, son, where are you going to open a store? For what? You're not going to succeed. You don't know what you're talking about. Stay working with me. Don't do anything. Make a blue-collar living. We don't need. Abba, I want to marry this girl. She's beautiful. Nah, she's too much for you. She's never going to look at you. No. Go. Do this, do that. Constantly. Abba, I want to finish the whole Shas. Son, you don't even know how to speak Hebrew. Yeah, but it's in English too. Yeah, but you Shas, you're already too old, you're already too young, you're already this, you're not even that religious. No, don't do it. Constantly. Our life is full of naysayers, of people telling us that we can't do anything. And our problem is that we believe them. How do we know we believe them? Because it affects us. If somebody ever said something to you that was negative, and you were affected by it, that means you believe it. Even if you say, no, but I don't really care, you believe it. Part of you believes it. And because you believe it, it'll affect you. It'll affect your psyche, it'll affect your mentality, it'll affect your ability. And in essence, you yourself are giving their words power. And you're turning yourself into what they said you are, even though you weren't before they said it. They said you can't do it, a part of you believes it. By the way, what happens? You can't do it anymore. Before they said it, you could do whatever you want. After they said it, you believed it, that's it. That ability, garbage. You wanted to complete the entire Shas because you saw that it's a big thing to do. You started, you're reading, you're on page number 7 out of 2,666, but you're as excited as can be. Your friend comes up and she goes, what are you doing? I'm learning Gemara. What do you want? Well, why? Just, I don't know, watch a shiur online if you're already going to learn something. No, I want to actually read the Gemara. I want to finish the whole Shas. You're going to finish that. Yeah. Hey, guys, look at this guy. He thinks he's Rav Kanievsky. Look at this guy. Hey, okay, Kodarav. Stop making fun of you. You believe a word that they said. You're affected by it. And for 1 second, you're giving them power. You're giving them power. That's why, Rabotai, first halacha, Shulchan Aruch, first one. Somebody comes to make fun of you in your Avodat Hashem, don't pay any attention to them. At all. Why? Because you paying attention to them, you agreeing with them, you second guessing yourself for a second already is taking away your strength to do what you want to do. If you know that what you want to do is good, you have to simply use these 2 fingers, put them in your ear anytime somebody wants to say something to you. And you have to be aggressive about it. Meaning, One of these people that's always Tisha B'Av comes to you and tells you their opinion of you and their opinion of your limitations, because they can't do it, they assume you can't do it either. You have to be aggressive about it. How so? They start talking, don't let them finish. Say, do me a favor, go tell that to somebody else. No, I'm telling you, but it's not relevant to anybody else. No, it's not relevant to me either. I know I'm going to do it. You go tell somebody else. Go. I don't want to hear it. Don't let them talk. Don't let this venom enter your neshama. Why? It's going to affect you. You start putting on some modest clothes. All of a sudden you're wearing a dress that reaches the floor. Yishtabach shemo like sarai menu. One of the girls says, what are you wearing? If you know that she's asking the question in a derogatory way, you have to answer in an aggressive way. I'm wearing what my grandmother Sarai Menu was wearing. You should do the same and leave. Don't give them the time of day to inject you with their poison. Why? Because the Midrash says that Adam HaRishon was created after all of the other creatures. After the lion, after the bear, after the panda, after the snake, after the yatush even, the mosquito. The question is why? Why after everybody? Now on one hand, the Gemara says, because if the person is not a shomer Torah and mitzvot, he doesn't learn Torah and mitzvot, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to tell him, look at you. I brought you to the world to learn Torah, and you didn't even do that. That mosquito is more important than you. Why? How do I know? Look, I created him before you. So he was already better than you, and the only way you can become better than him is if you fulfill your will, my will, by living Torah mitzvot, studying Torah. You didn't do it. You stayed. Something as insignificant as something that's below mosquito. On the other hand, the Gemara says that the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu made Adam HaRishon, mankind, after all of the animals, is because he took a piece of the strength of every single one of the creatures that he created before them and instilled it into man. A little bit of the snake, a little bit of the donkey, a little bit of the bull, a little bit of the lion. Sometimes you hear somebody roaring, screaming at his wife. That's a lion. Sometimes you see somebody, he likes to say something that's really going to hurt you, gets right under your skin. That's a snake, venom. Sometimes you see somebody just making a mess for no reason. That's a donkey. Sometimes you see somebody is so lazy, he doesn't even want to get out of bed. It's the elephant. All of these things are animalistic behaviors that are in all of us. Question is whether you're going to use them or not. Now when somebody comes and attacks your idea to serve Hashem at a higher level, to do something good in life, you want to make a very big donation to help a bunch of poor people, you want to do something significant and you want to build some holy place that's going to be full of Kedusha, you want to do something that nobody else has done ever or maybe any time recently. The second somebody comes to you with their venom, with their cobra venom, and their midat amalek, to cool you off, you have to use your animalistic lion and roar them away. Roar them away, don't let them speak even. As soon as you know they're going to try to cool you off, if you know this is a good idea, your Rav says it's a good idea, anyone that wants to get in your way, tell them, do me a favor, tell this to somebody else. Why? I know it's not me that's achieving anything. It's all Hashem. So everything that you're saying is about my limitations. But I know I have limitations. You don't have to remind me of my limitations. But I also know I'm not the one that's doing it. Success is in the hand of the Creator only. What I'm doing here is I'm telling Hashem that I want to be His vessel to do something good. That's all I'm doing. I'm not doing anything. I'm not building any buildings. I'm not teaching any books. I'm not saying any Divrei Torah. I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is I'm asking Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, me, I beg you, use me as the tool, use me as the vessel to build this yeshiva, to marry this beautiful woman, and have beautiful kids that are all tzaddikim, to be the father of all of these tzaddikim, to be the mother of all of these tzaddikim, to do all of this good. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, use me as your tool. I can't do it. And this guy over here, this venom over here, this cobra over here, friend of mine, this friend of me, just wanted to come here and remind me that I can't do it. But I told him I know I can't do it. It's you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, use me. Because all I have is I have the desire to do your will. Once a person understands their own limitations, at the same time understands Hashem's unlimitedness, and at the same time understands that their belief, their Emunah in something, literally instills power in something, they're going to know how to navigate in their life for good and for bad. They know that if they reacted a certain way that was negative, there will be negative consequences as a result. Sometimes right away, sometimes a tsunami that arrives a week later. Needless to say, something will happen. Same thing with positive. If a person looks to do something positive, they have to already think of things in a way that's appropriate. Eliminate any negativity from around them. Eliminate any of the naysayers. Eliminate anything that is telling them, no, you can't do it. Not because you think you can do it, like the Goyim say, if you believe in yourself, then you can do it. That's not what we're saying. No, you agree you can't do it. Because you can't do anything, you're just a piece of meat. But Hashem can. And all you want to do is convince Hashem to use you as the vessel to bring this thing to life. Whatever good thing that is. Which includes also success in business, success in marriage, success in parenting, anything that you want. Know that it's all in Hashem's hands to do anything. And know that you have to eliminate anything that's going to confuse you, which sometimes means your friends, your family, and whoever else. You have to eliminate all of these types of things, because as long as you are focused on what you need to do, to constantly pray to Hashem, to be used as that vessel, you can literally succeed in things that are beyond your imagination. Beyond your imagination to such an extent that you're not going to believe that it's happening. But you have to be very careful with the people you have around you. Quite frankly, the more success you want, the less people you want around you. Unless they have the same mindset as you. Which, the bigger your mindset, the less people will have it. So, this, Rabotai, answers a lot of different questions. Not only how the tzaddikim can literally say a prayer and make a promise that something good would happen and it happens, to how the goyim could literally instill life into something that's solid, lifeless, to how you could implement it into your life, for good and for bad. With that being said, hopefully this gave you some ideas and hopefully some questions. Bechavod, who wants to start?
Why are certain sins given an amount of fast to atone for? Like there may be some bigger sins that don't necessarily have the same type of rectification.
Give me an example.
Let's say a bracha l'vatala. I didn't see the rectification for that, but I saw rectification for not saying a bracha was 3 days.
Right. No, there are different things that require different types of tikkunim, and there are certain things that you don't have a tikkun for at all. Like for example, there's no tikkun for Chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem has no tikkun. You could fast 1,000,000 times, it won't help. But you can fix Chilul Hashem with 2 things. One is dying, which is not a good idea. don't try it. Or 2 is Kiddush Hashem. Sanctify Hashem's name. The Talmid of Rabbi Israel Misalant, Rav Blazer, he writes in the Sefer Or Israel how the sanctification of Hashem's name has such a great reward that it's the only thing that could undo the great damage that was created by Chilul Hashem. Now, when it comes to specific sins, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and then later on the Arizal codified a code, if you will, a certain cure for certain sins in order to eliminate things to the extent as if they didn't exist. Now, of course, tshuva for sins begins with stopping them. Stop the sin. Second is put yourself in a situation where you're not going to repeat the same sin. So if it's you sin because you were ignorant, start learning. If you sinned because you didn't know about the consequence of the sin, then learn about that topic. If you sinned because you went to a certain place, then make sure you don't go to that place. If you sin because of certain people, don't hang out with those people anymore. And so on and so forth. This is called a fence around the fence. Meaning, you have to forbid certain things to yourself that led you to sin, even if those things are allowed for other people. They're allowed for other people because they didn't sin. They're forbidden for you because you did sin. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, say I'm sorry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means that you have to get to a point where you realize that the sin is terrible and not just not allowed. So you have to say I'm sorry to Hashem. This takes a little time to get to the understanding that your sin is actually something terrible you have to say sorry about, because most people don't understand. Why should I say sorry for having some type of immoral crime? I felt good. Why should I say sorry about it? So that means you haven't gotten to that point where you realize it's bad. So your first 2 steps have not been completed yet. If you've completed your first 2 steps appropriately, where not only you stopped, but you've put enough fences, which means you've enough knowledge and so on and so forth to make sure you don't sin again, then you would have distanced yourself enough from that sin to the point where you realize that the bad smell, the bad things that are happening are coming from it, therefore it's bad. If you still don't see your sin as bad, that means you haven't completed step number 1 and 2 yet. Your completion of step number 1 and 2 will allow you to get to a point that you realize it's bad, and therefore complete step number 3, which is to say, I'm sorry to Hashem. After you said, I'm sorry to Hashem, Hashem is going to test you. And if you pass the test, that's completing the tshuva. But sometimes, that tshuva is not enough, where you need to undo it. So you could undo it by getting other people to do tshuva, and you could undo it and in essence erase it altogether by doing a tikkun. A tikkun used to be fast. Where, for example, if you wasted seed, or you were with a woman that's nida, even if it's your own wife, you'd have to fast over 80 times for each sin. Now if, let's say for example, your wife was a nida, or forget about your wife, was a girlfriend. Girlfriend is automatically nida. And on top of it, you weren't doing it in order to procreate. So you made 2 sins, wasting seed and were the nida. So you have to fast over 160 times. You have to fast over 160 times. Now, if you tell most people, go around. Oh, actually, yeah, no, around. Yeah, around the other thing. A person that was with an Ida, one time, I'm not talking about a 6-month relationship. One time, he has to fast now over 160 times. I believe it's 166 times. Just for that one sin. And you tell somebody, listen, fast one time for Yom Kippur, he's already having heart failure. Sonny, can you move the thing so you can sit, please? You tell somebody to fast for Yom Kippur, they're already, oh, come on, the whole day? Yeah. Tisha B'Av, oh, is this an obligation? Yes. 17 of Tammuz coming up. Do I really have to do it, Rabbi? Yes. 5 times a year you have to fast. People are already scared of fast 5 times a year. You tell them you have to fast 160 times? And I say, listen, Rabbi, I think I'm going to convert to Christianity. What, you believe in Yoshke? No, but I just can't fast 160 times. For one time I sinned. Okay, so the reality is, fasts are not realistic for most people. So what do? So Chachamim said that you have to replace the fast with something else that's a little painful, which is money. Something that is the replacement in a way where you have to evaluate how much food, how much it costs you to eat per day. Not your big steak and top restaurant, $300. We estimate it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $7 a person can survive in the Western society. Probably in other places in the world it's even less. So the way you look at it is, let's say, for example, instead of fasting 84 times for wasting seed, a person has to give tzedakah for that specific sin, to publicize Torah for that specific issue, for that specific tshuva, 5 times 84, 420. And if he lives in a certain part of the world where he knows that his meal is going to cost him $10 a day, then he has to do more. If it's a little less, then it's a little less. But needless to say, he has to replace the eating cost for the entire day times the amount of fast. So if somebody is just arrived at the age of 20, 25, and he pretty much just realized that wasting seed is forbidden, or she just realized that she caused 100 men to sin with her, and she realized that she did all these different things because of the way she looks, because of the way she dresses, and so on and so forth. She has to do tshuva for it. Now, of course, you can't fix all of your sins at one time unless you're a multimillionaire. So what do? You fix them one at a time, or half at a time, or whatever you can. If you could afford $400, you do $400. If you could afford $4,000, you do $4,000. If you could afford $4 million, if that's how many sins you made, you could afford $4 million. The point being is, you do whatever you can. Hashem is not going to punish you for what you can't do. Like, if you have, let's say, one guy told me, listen, Rabbi, I don't know, I was really addicted. I probably have like $4 million in sins. I said, okay, so what do you want from me? He said, Rabbi, I have $4 in my bank account. I'm missing a little bit. I said, okay, well, I can't lend you the rest. I don't have it either. But Hashem is not going to judge you based on what you can't do. He knows what you can't do. He's the one that made it happen that you can't do it. So first, focus on the other steps that I mentioned, which is, number 1, stop. 2, put a fence around the fence. 3, get to a point where you're sorry about the sin. 4, try to get other people to do tshuva, which you could do it for free. And then, Be'ezrat Hashem, as Hashem accepts your tshuva, He's going to give you more bracha. You're going to make a little bit more money. And once in a while, you're going to be able to afford $50, $100, $1,000, $5,000, whatever it is. And you give it as you can. That's it. That's how you're supposed to do it. When a person looks at things that way, then the big grand scheme of things, the $4 million bill, looks manageable. Why? Because he knows that Hashem is merciful. He's not going to punish him on not being able to pay. He's not the IRS. Hashem is not going to punish you on what you can't do. He's going to punish you on what you can do and you choose not to. You have the money, but you don't want to spend it. You'd rather buy another watch. You'd rather buy another house. Huh?
What if you encourage others to give?
You encourage others, also very good. The Mishnah in Avot says, Gadola me'aseh min ha'oseh. Someone that encourages other people to do mitzvot gets even a bigger reward than he himself doing it. So you encourage other people to donate, it's even greater than you giving yourself. Absolutely, helps even more. You have a rich uncle that has a few $1 million to donate, you help him donate to the right cause, it's as if you donated all that money. So the point being, Abutai, is that not to necessarily focus so much on money, but the point being is in regards to the tikkun, is we need to know that the tikkunim are very much real and people should take advantage of them if they can. But don't get overly nervous about the big bill that you have once you see the list of tikkunim and how many fasts you have to make and so on and so forth. You only have to be responsible for what you can do. If you could afford $5 a year, then that's what you do. You could afford $5 a day, that's what you do. Whatever you do, you do. You don't want to do it, don't do it. It's not we're not Nazi Germany. We're not obligated to do anything. The point being is that there is a way to clean up our past. But back to your original question is, why do some sins have a bigger fast or a bigger tikkun than others, even though on the grand scheme of things it doesn't look like it's the right cure? Part of the reason is because the Chachamim that figured out what exactly is the tikkun, they knew that this specific code works for this safe and doesn't work for the other safe. So you could have for example, a certain code for your safe. Now, every time you go to your safe, you put in that code, that's what works. You put 32, and then twist it 3 times to the right, and then you put 37, and then 2 times to the left, and you put 12, and it opens the lock. Now, if you use that same code and that same mechanism on a different safe, it's not going to work. Why? Because that safe has a different code. So the Chachamim knew and understood what the code is for every single sin. And sometimes this sin has less than something that's even graver. On the other hand, sometimes the things that look less are actually worse. Like, for example, today it's very, very normal for people to go to a comedy show, stand-up comedy, and enjoy themselves. It's a form of entertainment. People love to go to stand-up comics. Now, when, Be'ezrat Hashem, all of you arrive at Gan Eden, I can make one promise to you. You're not going to see a single comic there. Not a single stand-up comedian there. Reason why? Unless they retired and did tshuva, which is almost impossible. Why? Because one of the key things that stand-up comedians do and do best is what? Make fun of the audience. They make fun of people and embarrass them in public. Now, to us, it's funny. If I'm not the guy that's being embarrassed, and sometimes even if I am, it's funny. He just called me this, he just called me that, ha ha ha, everybody's laughing, and whatever, you laugh, it's fun, right? Gemara said, someone that causes other people shame, public shame, loses their olam haba. So although to us it doesn't look like that bad, it's funny, he's doing it. The guy's coming there knowing that he has a risk of being made fun of, and all the different excuses that you could have in your head, babkis. Anyone that makes fun of other people in public has a very, very serious problem. Even though to us it doesn't even look like a problem sometimes. We think it's funny. We think it's, wow, he's really talented, this guy. He could give you a joke about every single guy, every single nationality, height, weight, everything. Bad. So, also remember that the divine law and the divine logic is not human logic. So that's why sometimes the tikkun on one thing looks like it's less because you think it's a lesser sin, but nonetheless it is a bigger sin. Other times it's because the code is different. And other times it's just simply there is no tikkun available that's full rectification for that sin like there is for others. So it depends on what it is. But nonetheless, the tikkunim are available for many, many things. Some people utilize them effectively. Some people ignore them. They think it's just a money scheme. They think that it's just a way for rabbis to make money. And they're privy to think whatever they want. They can think it and not take advantage of it. Remember, if the rabbi or whatever tzaddik is your mashpia, if his primary focus is constantly to tell you to donate, and he's like calling you during the afternoon, at night, in the morning, constantly asking you for money, it's probably not the right place to donate. Probably not the right place to donate. But if his primary focus to teach you Torah, that's already a good indication you should donate. Why? Because that's a holy place. But if the primary focus is constantly donation, it's not a good place. So if the people offering a tikkun are constantly telling you, listen, I can't answer your question unless you do tikkun. I can't do this for you unless you pay me. And if they start selling the Torah, then that's a place you should run away from. But if they simply offer different things, free information, free this, free that, and you could pay for this also if you want, they offer it. You could take advantage of it or not. That's it. It's obviously not a money-making scheme. And many, many times, I tell people when I see that their main focus is money, the first thing I tell them is not to donate. I had one guy that his introduction to me. He sent me a message after I told him I can't talk on the phone. I told him I can't talk. Don't take offense to it. I'm just really busy. I can't talk on the phone. Just send me messages, which is what I tell everybody. And his introduction to me was that he makes $5 million a year. That was his introduction to me. Like, he thought it was important enough for me to know his annual income. But he was surprised that my response to it was, first, Thank you for letting me know, but please do me a favor, don't donate $1 to me. And the reason why is because I want to make sure that I can help you. And if you think that I can help you only because you're paying me, already it's going to fail. So as much as we need money to do a lot of good things that we can, we need to help you first. So don't donate anything. He was very surprised because he thought that was his ticket in. That if he donates, therefore I could answer his call at any time and do whatever he wants, because that's what he's used to with other rabbis and other people. He throws a few dollars their way and they jump. Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give me that tikkun. And in fact, it's the opposite, because I know that if that relationship would have started with money, it would have never succeeded. Simply wouldn't. But the problem is that sometimes people don't get it, and they think, no, there's something wrong here. What do you mean? What do you mean, no? Oh, that means you want more? No, I'm telling you, I don't want the money. Don't donate. Do me a favor, don't donate. Okay, I'm going to find a different rabbi. Okay, find a different rabbi then. What, a rabbi that you could buy? Well, that's what you want? You want to go buy somebody? Go buy. Go buy. Of course, donations are fantastic, and donations help us do all these different things. But if a person's primary focus is just because, money, it's already a bad thing. Especially if it's the rabbi that's interested in money constantly. So again, the tikkunim are very, very expensive. They're not cheap. There's no question about it. I have some people that I know that literally have paid tens of thousands of dollars for their tikkunim in different organizations and different places and so on, and they're perfectly happy about it. And I have some people that regret sending $400. What's the difference? One understood, one didn't understand. That's it. That's the difference. Next question. Yes?
So you said that if someone dies Mechal Shabbat,
Okay.
doesn't try to go to Gehinom forever.
Okay.
But you also said that they go to Gehinom forever until their soul gets completely destroyed, and the only part that's left of them is Param that goes to the original source. But doesn't that mean that according to this, Gehinom is not forever? It's only until this happens?
What do you mean? It's not for only this happens? Until that soul is destroyed completely?
So it's not forever?
Yes. So this is... I spoke to a famous speaker recently who was asked a question. The question was, is it true that Gehinom is forever? And he said no. Now otherwise, I don't listen to this speaker, but from what I heard, otherwise he's a relatively wise person that knows some Torah. So when someone brought this to my attention, I was very, very disappointed. Why was I disappointed? Because there are countless sources in the Torah, including the Gemara, including the Zohar, including Chachamim, and so on, that say that Gehinom has a section that is permanent. There's even a sources in the Torah. You look at the last verse in the book of Isaiah, it says that Gehinom is forever. You look at Rashi, and this week's Parashat Korach, talks about Gehinom. And that's where Korach is, and being a very, very long period of time. So the Gemara outright says that it's forever. So I said, you know what? Since this speaker otherwise is okay, I'm not going to go against him publicly. I'm not some cowboy. Obviously, I have to investigate this. So I called him. And I asked him, why did you say this? I mean, you are aware of the Gemara in this place, in that place, in this place, in that place, in this place, in that place. You are aware of the Ramban in Sha'ar HaGemul that he says Gehinom is forever for such people and such. He goes, yeah, I'm familiar with most of those places. I said, so how come you said that Gehinom is not forever? He says, because it's not. So I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, eventually the soul gets destroyed. I said, oh, so you are being, this is much worse. This is much, much worse. Why? What is he doing here? To appease the public, especially the English-speaking public, forever sounds like Hashem is vicious. So what does he do to appease them? He tells them it's not forever, but he doesn't elaborate on what it's not forever means. So the Chachamim discussed this in the Zohar and a few other places, especially the place to talk about Gehinom is that Gehinom is not supposed to be for everybody forever, obviously. Only certain types of sinners. Mechalel Shabbat, for example, with Pharisee, unfortunately, if he has no merits whatsoever, he has a very, very serious problem. A permanent problem that he's not going to be able to fix. Now, that soul is going to be suffering all types of agony and pain for a very, very long time. It could be literally millions of years in our time. Like, there's no concept of time there, but if you compare the timing, it could literally be millions of years. Until that soul is literally completely destroyed, and the only thing that's left is the Chelek Eloka Mimal, the original piece that God instilled into, breathed into Adam HaRishon. And that goes back to the original source. But what comes back to the original source is not you, it's not the person. It's the part of God, if you will. Hashem doesn't have parts, but for softening this to our ear and make it understandable, we have to say parts. So the part of God goes back to God. The part of that was in this world, the guy that was making, or the girl that was making all of these horrible sins, eventually gets destroyed. But only after a really, really long time. It could be thousands of years, millions of years, whatever it is, a really, 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 really long time. Okay? So this, what I would like to say, con man, is fooling people by saying, no, it's not forever, which is technically correct. It's not forever. But when you understand that it's for thousands or millions of years or some type of infinite amount of time, which in essence ends with complete destruction, it might as well be forever. That's why the Gemara and I and anyone that's at least trying to be a Talmid Chacham says forever. Not because it's literally forever, because at some point everything shuts down, and at some point the thing is destroyed and so on, but because, for lack of a better term, for all intents and purposes, it's forever. That's it. So that's the problem with English-speaking rabbis sometimes, or sometimes Hebrew-speaking, and simply people that want to appease the public and not appease a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They word things in such a way that they make you feel good about yourself. Oh, no, this sin is not forever. There's Rabbi Reuven, no, he said it's forever. It's not. Look, Rabbi Joe Smith over here said that, there's no such rabbi. Rabbi, this guy said it's not forever. See, he's wrong. So everything else Rabbi Reuven says is wrong, because he said it's not, therefore I can't listen to anything. I can't listen. He's Korach, this guy. The reality is, who's Korach? It's the liar. He didn't lie technically, but he lied. By being dishonest and vague, it might as well be a lie. It might as well be a lie. Because, let me ask you guys a question. If until now, every time I describe to you Gehinom, I either did it like I usually do, which is forever, or could be forever, change the forever as it means forever, or I would have just given you all of these details, that it's 1.7 million years of this chamber, then another 2 million in that one, and this one, and that one, and give you all the details, but eventually it's over. But that's just because you no longer exist. Which one would you guys prefer? Just let's cut to the chase, it's forever, or give you the details of, it's not really forever, because it ends, but the sinner ends also. Bottom line, that's how we speak clearly. Bottom line, what is the bottom line? Kasher or tarif? Allowed, not allowed, black or white. That's what this generation requires. They require simple yes or no. But when people try to be very, very particular with words, they can manipulate them in such a way that they could look like they're doing the public a favor. In reality, they're doing the public a disjustice. Why? Because now somebody that was scared to death from being a Mechalel Shabbat, scared to death from wasting seeds, scared to death from being immoral, scared to death from doing all of these types of sins that can get them a permanent Gehinom. Now all of a sudden they heard, oh, it's not permanent. Okay, so it's really not that bad after all. Okay, fine. Okay, we're going to go have a barbecue this Shabbat. And that's what happens. You just cool them off, just like Amalek does, and the people think that all sins are the same. And the Ramban writes in Shar Gmul, anyone that says or even gives the illustration that all sins are the same, meaning they all have the same consequence, is a heretic. Why a heretic? By saying that all sins have the same consequence, turns God into an evil God. Because if the murderer, the rapist, the pedophile get the same punishment as the guy that stole $10, there's no justice. If the guy that cursed God and the guy that cursed his friend get the same punishment, there's no justice. There's no justice. If the guy that violated Shabbat and the guy that forgot to say Birkat HaMazon get the same punishment, there's no justice. If there's no justice, then you're saying God is evil. So hence the reason why we go into the details, but we try to simplify it as much as possible without missing any of the details. We try to be clear to let you know this danger. Don't go there. As soon as you know what danger to stay away from, it gives you more inclination that you'll do more good things. But so long as you think that all of the danger is equivalent, you might as well violate the entire Torah. So, although what you said is right, it's not permanent, but it is permanent for all intents and purposes. Next question. Good question, by the way. And I still didn't expose that rabbi because I still didn't get permission yet. Waiting for that. Next. Yes.
Parsha Mishpatim, Rashi lists certain phrases that are connected to 3 to 4 death penalties.
Okay.
He states in his commentary to chapter 21, verse 17, that whenever it is stated he has forfeited his life, literally his blood is upon him, the execution is done by stoning.
Okay.
So with that in mind, in regards to assault and execution in Parsha Shlach, why doesn't the Torah just use this phrase? What does it come to teach us by being very explicit in the manner in which he's to be executed?
Why doesn't the Torah teach us the phrase of what?
So why does the Torah just use the phrase that Rashi says this refers to stoning?
Why doesn't the Torah use the same phrase over and over again?
No, why doesn't it use that phrase? Why is it very explicit? If Rashi already made the case that...
Oh, okay. So you'll see from the Gemara when there are different times that HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses different phrases to say, in essence, the same overall message, but to teach us an additional lesson. So the Gemara in Masechet Yomah says that when it talks about bringing korbanot, it says bring two sheeps, but it mentions two twice. Why do I need to know it twice? Just mention it once. So the Gemara says that this is to teach us that it's not just to bring two, but also two that are the same. That are overall the same size, same this, same that. But then the Gemara elaborates even further and says, no, but there's another time that it actually mentions two, but it's only one time. So in this particular case, it's actually referring to two being the same, but the time that it says two, it's actually saying it's two, but it's two that don't have to be the same. Meaning one can be big, one can be small. So when you study the Gemara, you see that every single word is there for a reason. There's an enormous amount of lessons to be learned from it. And therefore, the Hashem uses different terms sometimes to describe the same basic level meaning, like what you're saying, the same type of death penalty. But apparently that particular verse, if you look it up in the Gemara and see where it is, look at the Mefarshim and so on, you'll see that there is other lessons to be learned and why it's described this way this time and why it's described that way other times. So that's across the board in the entire Torah. I mean, if I was Rav Ovadia, I could probably tell you exactly what and who and what and when on every single verse, but since I'm nothing, I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that the general teaching is that every single word it's used in the Torah is there for a reason. There is a lesson to be learned from it. especially when it's the same message but different word. In fact, there are times that the same word is in two different places, but it's spelled differently. Sometimes with a vav, sometimes without a vav. Sometimes with a yud, sometimes without a yud. The same exact word, same exact thing, but it's spelled with one less letter, because that letter could be, the sound of that letter could be done by one of the nikud. So in Hebrew, our vowel system is those little dots and exclamation points and those little things. So that's our vowel system. So you can say make the same sound with more or less letters. Not like English, where the sound has to be made by the letters. Like if you want to have the sound of O, you need to use a O. In Hebrew, you don't need an O. You don't need just a Vav. It could actually just be a dot on top of the letter. So sometimes you'll see the same exact word in the Torah that's spelled differently. And that carries a certain message. For example, in the parasha where Avraham Avinu is buying the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. He's buying the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, he's buying the cave to bury Sarah Imenu. The first time that the name of the seller of the Ma'arat HaMachpelah is mentioned, it's spelled longer with more letters, one extra letter, the letter Vav. But later on, it's spelled with less. And the Gemara teaches us that's because before he sold it, he was considered in essence righteous. But since he was proven to be not righteous, where he made many promises but did very little, on him it is written, Reshaim say a lot and do little, while Tzadikim say little and do a lot. So his name is mentioned in the Torah again, but with less letters, to in essence teach us this lesson and other lessons. So there are countless lessons to be learned on how certain things are spelled. Needless to say, how different words are used in different parts of the Torah, and that surely is one of them. There's actually, I haven't read it, but there's actually a new edition of Chumashim by Art Scroll that I believe came out in probably the last year or two, maybe even less, that have the Chumash itself, unlike the traditional Chumash that's very famous, the stone Chumash that they have, it's English and Hebrew, and then it has commentary by Rashi and a few other Mefarshim. They now have a Chumash that has all of the times that this verse is mentioned in the Gemara. So you could learn a lot of different things there. Apparently it looks very, very interesting, especially if you love to learn Chumash. You could actually learn Chumash and Gemara, and it's I believe every one of the books of the 5 books of Moses is now the same size as what their old Chumash was by itself. So there's a lot of stuff, but surely if you look at that verse, it's mentioned several times in the Gemara, and I'm sure they're going to discuss that and many other points. Next question. Go ahead. Yeah. Naomi, yeah. Like, keep the phone? According to Orach Chaim, despite the display of divine retribution in the Korach rebellion, the very next day a large group of people started to complain and were furious over the deaths of the dignitaries, so much so that they threatened to kill Aaron and Moshe. However, 38 years after the rebellion, it says right after Miriam's passing, the people failed to shed tears for her. So the well that was created on the second day of creation in her merit refused to shed water for them. Okay? Why did the generation mourn the dignitaries of the rebellion, but their children did not, Miriam? While the previous generation was referred to, this is like an essay. Hopefully it's 3 questions. Okay, so while the previous generation was referred to as a generation of knowledge, and their children would have known Miriam's deeds, did she not receive proper mourning period because they knew she was righteous and going to Shamayim? If so, then why did they mourn Moshe and Aaron? And why did they mourn Chul, Miriam's? Why didn't they mourn Chul, Miriam's? Okay, so a lot of questions here. Okay, so in so many words, you're saying that the why did they mourn after Korach and all those people died and not mourn Miriam? That's at least my understanding of the first question. So the human condition is that we take things for granted naturally when they come to us easily. Many times, if you give somebody something for free, they'll look at it as if it's worthless. But if you told them they have to pay for it, they'll look at it as if it's priceless. Even though the product itself didn't change. If I told you, here's a phone, brand new phone, take it as a gift. You may like it, you may enjoy it, but you're not going to be as careful with it as you are if you would have paid for it. Why? Automatically in your mind, the second you pay for something, it has a higher value. So Miriam didn't have to kiss up to Miriam and plead to Miriam for her to have such great merits to the extent that Hashem literally brought a well that followed Am Yisrael for 40 years. That they were able to drink the water from there, and it was always fresh. They were able to drink it, and it was like the man. It would taste like whatever they wanted. If they wanted to taste wine, the water was like wine. If they wanted Coca-Cola, it was Coca-Cola. Diet, whatever. Whatever you wanted, that's how the water was. So they didn't have to cry for this, or beg her, or say thank you every week, nothing. What happened? Took her for granted. So when she died, they didn't really realize what they lost, because they forgot already that it's only to her merit that they're able to drink. Only to her merit. And when we don't have respect for people that have brought us a lot of good, we can easily get to the complete opposite extent of disrespecting them. Meaning, you brought them a lot of good, and instead of them saying at the very least thank you, instead they go against you. And this happens, unfortunately, many times. One of the other reasons that this happens is because people don't know how to say thank you. Because they have a very big ego. One of the Chachamim used to have a habit of every time somebody would come to him and ask him for guidance or ask him for help, at the end of the meeting, after you had helped them, he gave them a little candy. Give them a piece of candy. And one time, after seeing this for many years, one of the students was brave enough to ask the Rav, Kvod Rav, why do you give everybody a piece of candy? Like, what's with the candy? And the Rav said something that, when I heard this, changed my life. The Rav said this. He says, this person right now, he came to me for help. He likes me. So I gave him advice. One day, he's going to pass this time of difficulty that he's dealing with, and he's going to remember that I did him a favor. I helped him pay the mortgage. I helped him find a wife. I helped him with XYZ, whatever it is. I helped him with something. That he's going to realize that he can't pay me back. Because I don't need him to pay me my mortgage. I don't need him to find me a wife. He can't help me the same way I helped him. And that is going to create a conflict inside him. Why? His ego is going to be bothered with the fact that he got help from me and he can't even pay me back. And that's going to create a hatred. He's going to start hating me. And he's probably, if he's not going to learn enough Torah, he's probably going to want to throw something at me. So I'm hoping that when he finally gets to that point and wants to throw something at me, that candy's still in his pocket and he just throws the candy at me and not a rock. This is as real as it gets, guys. That's what happens constantly. The people you help the most sometimes become the worst things on earth. And the love of Am Yisrael has to make you continue doing it despite that knowledge. Many times people tell me, listen, I helped this girl, I helped this guy, and they did something against me. I said, yeah, that's normal. What do you mean? She's so bad. Of course, you're right, she's bad. You're right, he's horrible. Yes, you're right. So why are you saying it's normal? I said, because that's what people do. Most people eventually will go against you, even though you helped them. In fact, the more you help them, the more likely they go against you eventually. So who would want to do that? I said, you. You should do that. You should continue helping them. Why? Because that's what God wants. God wants you to help people, despite the fact that you know they're going to go against you one day. That shows the love of God. The reality is, gives you a little taste of how God feels. That's what we do to Him constantly. But the point being is that that's part of the reason. So, when Miriam died, we did not appreciate her enough while she was alive. Needless to say, we did not appreciate her after she died, and therefore Hashem punished us and stopped the well. And the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan says that when a kosher person dies and the people do not mourn him, it brings an evil decree on people to the extent where Hashem could kill their kids. That's how much Hashem dislikes when such a thing happens. So anytime you hear that a very big tzaddik died and so on, you should mourn. You should mourn. Now, when Am Yisrael did not mourn, Hashem punished them severely. Now, when it came, what about with Korach? They mourned him. They were upset about him. They weren't necessarily upset that Korach died. They were upset that Korach lost the war. They saw how much power Moshe and Aaron really have, that in essence there is no going against them. And they got such a fear into them that they thought that anyone that's going to make Moshe and Aaron upset is going to automatically die. They thought that there was like a mafia. And that was obviously another mistake. That was another mistake that Am Yisrael made. And Am Yisrael, Baruch Hashem, made many, many mistakes. 10 specific ones. Hashem mentions that they made 10 times they tested me. But if you actually count the tests, it's much more than 10. So I don't really know which one Hashem counts as the 10. But I remember years ago, I did a shiur about what I think are the 10. Or at least 11, even though it mentions 10. Point being is that it's the lack of appreciation of someone that's righteous, of someone that did good for you, could easily get you to a point where you're not only underappreciating it, but you could actually turn into an enemy. Hence the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu gave gratitude even to something that was lifeless. When Hashem told him, touch the water, and it'll turn to blood. Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, Hashem, I owe gratitude to this water. Because the water didn't drown me when I was a little baby. When I was a little baby, my mom put me in a little basket to hide from the Egyptians. The water didn't just drown me. Okay, what about hit the ground, turn all the sand into a lice? No, Hashem, this ground I owe it a gratitude. Why? Because when I buried the Egyptian after I killed him, the ground didn't spit him back up and tell the Egyptians that I did it. So I owe this something that's that's lifeless. I owe it a gratitude. Now let me ask you guys a question. Did the water tell Moshe Rabbeinu you're welcome? Did the water send Moshe Rabbeinu an email saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, Sachten, Chazak Baruch, now I know you're appreciative because you said thank you to me. Because you didn't hear me? Does the water have any life? No. But what did Moshe Rabbeinu really do here? Moshe Rabbeinu taught us a very valuable lesson. Anything that gives you good, you have to be appreciative to it to no end. To no end. if you have a limitation on your appreciation of the good that someone's giving you, you, my friend, can even get to a point where you can spit in the hand that feeds you. Because that's how it is. So Moshe Rabbeinu showed us that you have to be so appreciative of good that even if that good is given to you by something that doesn't have a life, water, sand, and so on, you have to be appreciative of it. Have to put it into your character traits to be extremely appreciative of any good that anybody has ever given to you. Even if that good sometimes is given to you by an enemy. Even if it's given to you by an enemy. So, point being is that it's a Am Yisrael was underappreciative of Moshe Rabbeinu, underappreciative of Miriam, underappreciative of all of the tzaddikim until they died. Until they died, because they realized what they lost. Whereas when it came to Korach, it was a different situation. It was really more of a situation that they got scared. I don't know how to turn this phone on to read the rest of the question, but I think I answered most of it. Next question. I'll answer the rest after somebody can tell me to turn the phone on. Yes, go ahead in the back.
Did Yaron die at Mount Sinai with on himself?
Did who die?
Yaron.
Aaron? Did Aaron die where? In Mount Sinai?
When Hashem was giving the commandments.
I'm not following. Oh, because of all Am Yisrael died, did Aaron also die at the same time? To my knowledge, yes. To my knowledge, everybody died except Moshe Rabbeinu. It could be that Aaron didn't die. I can't. I don't remember of a midrash or Gemara that I read that says otherwise. Because the only thing I remember is that Moshe Rabbeinu is the only one that stayed alive. But it is very possible that he stayed alive. But the reason why is because Moshe Rabbeinu is the only one that was at that level that was able to hear Hashem's voice and not die. Whereas everybody else that heard Hashem's voice, their neshama simply ran out of their body. But it is possible that there is an opinion out there that Aaron HaKohen didn't die, because actually, now that I remember, there's a Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah, I believe, that says that only part of the nation died and another part of it flew 12 miles away. From the glory of Hashem's voice, they, imagine like a wind, or like somebody like stepping on something, and there's like the power that comes out of it. So in essence, that happened, and many of them flew very, very, very far away, and they came back. So now that I think of it, there is a source that can tell you that Aaron and actually other people didn't die. Some died and some didn't. So yeah, Chazak Baruch. Next.
What is saying, Pasha Mish saying that the Jewish slave that's going to be working for his master is going to get a non-Jewish slave woman?
Why would again, repeat it again?
Why isn't a Jewish slave going to be given a non-Jewish woman?
Why is a Jewish slave going to be given a non-Jewish woman?
Yeah.
Okay, so when somebody steals and they can't return the money, Torah says they have to, there's no jail in Judaism. There's no prison in Judaism. What they would do is that the person that stole the money would have to sell themselves and become a slave. Now, of course, even though that person becomes a slave, he still has needs, still has physical needs, and so on and so forth. So they allow him to marry a non-Jewish woman, because that non-Jewish woman is also a slave of the owner, and she's his property. Now, the reason why is because if the person is not a thief, they're not allowed to be owned by anybody. Meaning, you're not allowed to own a Jew just because. You're not allowed. So the Jew is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman, because he himself, being a slave, is not able to fulfill the entire Torah. He's able to fulfill the Torah like a woman, which is partial mitzvot and limitations. So with that being said, he is allowed to marry a non-Jewish woman, but that's because that non-Jewish woman is owned by the same owner, and when he leaves, she stays with the owner, and the kids stay with the owner. And if after 7 years he finishes his sentence and he doesn't want to leave because he likes the woman, then there's a process or procedures that they do, that they make a hole in his ear. They make a hole in his ear that he can now stay a slave permanently. But they punish him, in essence, for making such a step. For making such a step. Because he heard the words of Hashem in Mount Sinai, and he still didn't listen, so they remind him by making this big hole in his ear. Next question, yes?
Can the offspring of this match, when he was a slave, could they become Jewish at some point?
They can become partial Jews. They while they're slaves. But if they're eventually freed, it's a different story. But no, if they're born while they're there, no, they're slaves for life. This is not really applicable to today. There's no real slavery anymore. But at least in the Jewish world, there's slavery in the non-Jewish world. But no, whatever children he has under the slavery is property of the owner. Property of the owner. I know this is a foreign concept to people, that a human being would be property of another human being, but in the Torah world, that does exist. It does exist. The magic phone. Part 17. I don't even know where I'm going. Korach's rebellion, number 3. Okay. Reference, the Korach's rebellion, Rambam Bamidbar 16:6 states that Moshe felt the spirit of prophecy return to him, but this was only after Datan and Aviram left, when Moshe was trying to dissuade Korach and his supporters. Why wasn't Moshe able to receive prophecy in the presence of Datan and Aviram at that moment? So the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat and a few other places that anytime somebody becomes angry, they lose their chokhmah, they lose their wisdom, and even if they have prophecy, they lose their prophecy. So Datan and Aviram were specific, unique reshaim that we learn about them before we even know their name. Now all of you have heard the famous story of Moshe Rabbeinu when he first decided to become Moshe Rabbeinu, where he saw that there was an Egyptian beating up on a Jew, right? And he killed the Egyptian. And the next day he saw 2 Jews fighting, and he yelled at them. He called one of them a Rasha because he had his hand in the air. And the Gemara tells us from there we learn that to become a Rasha, all you have to do is have your hand in the air, threatening somebody to hit, not even hitting them. Even if you have your hand like this, even if you're joking, Rasha, not allowed. And I know that brothers do that to each other sometimes, but it's not good. So the point is that he went to those 2 people, to those 2 Bnei Israel, and he told them, why are you fighting? Why are you fighting? And they said, oh, what do you think, you're our boss? They went and told Paro about them, and Paro tried killing Moshe Rabbeinu after that. That's the basic pshat of the story. If you look at the Midrash over there, you find out something very unique. Who are these people? The first story starts with a woman named Shulamit. Shulamit was a very, very nice lady that was too friendly. Every person that she would see, she'd say, hello, hello, hi, hi. You know, like sometimes women tell me, yeah, I have a lot of guy friends. Like that kind of person. That person, she has a lot of guy friends. It's a very problem. That's like Shulamit. She has guy friends. Not allowed to have guy friends. You barely have to have girlfriends. Needless to say, guy friends. You have to have one man in your life, that's your husband. And if you have children, that's your children. That's it. No guy friends. There's no platonic relationships in Judaism. But people like to have it because they think they're being nice. Well, they need to learn from this story where Shulamit was very nice. Even though she was a slave, she was very nice. She said hi, hi, hi to everybody. And one day, the Egyptian saw her and said, hi, hi Egyptian, hi Mustafa. And Mustafa says, she like me. Why? She said, hi. Which, by the way, is very normal for guys. Very normal for guys. You say hi to him, he thinks you like him. Yeah, but she's married with 6 kids. Yeah, but she doesn't want to be with this guy. She wants me. How do you know? She said, hi. Yeah, she was selling you ice cream, you fool. No. I saw it, she looked at me. The eyes, I see it. I see in the eyes. Everybody's a prophet. Like the Egyptian. So the Egyptian thought she likes him. So what did he do? He came later on that night, somewhere around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he started yelling at her husband, you go to work. He said, Mustafa, I have at least another hour before I go to work. No, go now. You have a special shift. So he got him out of the house, and he went back inside. In those days, there's no lights, there's no electricity. He went back into the house, and he went into the bed with Shulamit. Shulamit didn't know it's not her husband. Didn't know. So she was with him. In essence, she got raped without even realizing it. And when they finished the act, the husband came back and he saw the Egyptian. And he knew what happened. And that's why the Egyptian saw him and he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed that he caught him doing what he did with his wife. So he tried killing him, started hitting him, started insulting him, started doing all types of things. Moshe Rabbeinu, in his Ruach HaKodesh, when he saw this happening between this Jew and this Egyptian, he saw everything, not just what was happening, but what the whole behind-the-scenes story. And not only did this Egyptian Rasha rape this guy's wife, but on top of it, he's torturing the Jew over it. So that's the reason why he said the Shem HaMeforaj, he said Hashem's real name, and he killed the Egyptian on the spot. Now what happened is that the next day, the guy comes to his wife and he tells her, listen, the Egyptian touched you, you can't be my wife. Yalla, go back to your father's house. So Shulamit went back to her father's house, and her brother said, what are you doing here? Well, my husband threw me out. Because when he threw you out? Oh, the Egyptian this, she told him the whole story. So the brother comes to the husband, and he says, what are you doing? Why are you kicking my sister out? She got raped, it's not her fault. He goes, yeah, but it's this, but that. So they started fighting. Moshe Rabbeinu saw him, said, why are you guys fighting? Why are you guys fighting? And they started yelling at him. Who are those two people? Datan v'Aviram. Datan v'Aviram. One of them was the husband of Shulamit. One of them was the brother of Shulamit. So both of them in essence, are in the story. One of them, Moshe Rabbeinu saved his life. The other one, he saved his sister's life. But both of them were ungrateful. So much so that they didn't leave with Am Yisrael when Am Yisrael left Egypt. They stayed behind. They wanted to keep their jobs with Paro, and they encouraged Paro to go after Am Yisrael. And after Paro went after Am Yisrael and then drowned in the ocean with the people and so on, he's the only one that survived. The Datan v'Aviram realized they have nothing to work for. They have nothing. So what do? They went back into the ocean. They went back after Am Yisrael, and Hashem split the ocean for them alone. The Midrash says. Midrash Me'am Loez. Where did their merit come from that Hashem would split the ocean for them? They protected Am Yisrael from the Egyptians. They were the police. And every time the Egyptians would want to beat them up, they would take the beatings for them. So they had some merit. But they were Reshaim. Ungrateful Reshaim. So then when they went against Moshe Rabbeinu on multiple counts. One of them, the last one being, when they joined Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu already got fed up. As soon as he would see them, he tried rebuking them. He tried telling them, no, come on, stop it already. They didn't even want to talk to him. And they said to him, even if you take out our eyes, we're not going to listen to you. Meaning, go kill yourself, Moshe. So automatically Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, that's it, finished. So when he saw them, he got angry and he lost his prophecy. He lost his prophecy, but for only that time. As soon as they left, he got his prophecy back. So that little question just gave you 25-minute midrash. Next question. We're almost done. Yes?
Is someone punished for saying amen to someone's blessing in vain?
Is someone punished for saying amen to somebody's blessing in vain? Meaning he made a blessing for no reason and you said amen? No. It's unless you knew that his blessing is in vain. But if you just simply said amen to it, no. There is an interesting midrash in Reshit Chochmah. It's mentioned by Rav Kanievsky in Orchot Yosher, where he says that the third level of Gehinom is called Duma, where a person is punished for not answering Amen and for davening with constant interruptions because there's too much talking in the shul. So when it comes to going back to shul at some point when things settle down and so on, you guys should be very careful to make sure not to talk during shul, not just during the prayer, at all. And the reason why is because the shul is a place of makom kodesh. It's a bet hamikdash katan. So when you talk anything, when you say anything mundane in a shul, even when there's no prayer, you're going to become like Am Yisrael that was ungrateful to the river and to the tzaddikim and so on. You're going to think that this is like your house. And you're going to become more comfortable to talk even during prayer. And Rav Kanievsky mentions the Reshit Chochmah in the Zohar HaChadash, where he says that there's a special mador in Gehinom for those people. It's called Duma. Why? Because people that are talking during shul, they have that place. But also people that don't answer Amen when there is a blessing. But they're too busy talking, they also go to that place in Gehinom. So it doesn't mention not going to Gehinom for not saying Amen, but for saying not saying Amen because you're too busy talking is not a good thing. Now, as far as saying Amen, you should always make sure that you heard the blessing, and not just say Amen blindly. Like you just heard the last word that this guy said, and don't just say Amen. Like if you heard the whole blessing, then you can say Amen. Then you say Amen. There's a concept taught in the Zohar, and I believe also in other places, called Amen Yetomah, an orphaned Amen. An orphaned Amen requires a whole shiur about it, but it's a relatively scary subject because it shows us how we could really get punished severely just for something as simple as Amen. Something as simple as Amen, not saying it the right way, or pronouncing it like man. Sometimes people forget how to say Amen. It's too hard for them to say Amen. It has 2 syllables, so that's too much for them. So man. They start sounding like sheep. That's an orphaned Amen. That's called an orphaned Amen. It's and they get punished for it. They get punished for it. So it's important to say Amen appropriately, and because in essence, what are you saying with Amen? What does Amen really mean?
True.
True. What's true?
You're agreeing with the blessing.
Amen is an acronym. It's an acronym for El Melech Ne'eman. El, the God. Melech, the king. Ne'eman, trustworthy. Meaning, God, the king, whatever he says, he's going to do. He says he's going to give you blessing, he's going to give you blessing. He says he's going to give you punishment, he's going to give you punishment. If he wrote it in the Torah, you could bet the bank times 1,000,000. For sure it's going to happen. And that's why the Gemara also says, anyone that called Hashem Vatran, meaning Hashem is just going to let this one go. Yeah, but he said you're not allowed to be with a Goya. Yeah, but Hashem has such a big world. What does he really care? Just one time, Rabbi. One time. Not the whole time. Not marrying her. One time. Hashem said no. Hashem said he's going to punish you. Nah. Me and Hashem were like this. Hashem, don't worry. I got this. She's Jewish. She's Jewish in her heart. El Melech Ne'eman. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says he's going to punish you, and he will. Maybe not right away. It could be 40 years later. Could be 40 years later, but for sure you're going to get punished for it. 100%. Same thing with the reward. You could do something good, nothing happens. You gave somebody stock, you helped somebody, you paid rent. Actually, I got a story for you guys. Shtabach Shimo. Years ago, maybe 5 years ago, something like that, 5-6 years ago, this Talmid Chacham tells me this story, unbelievable. He says he had a serious, difficult time, and he got evicted from his house. And he got wife, kids, so on, nightmare. So now he has to find a place. Now, you're not getting evicted from your house because you have a lot of money. Usually it's the opposite. So he went to this one guy. He said, listen, I don't know what to do. What happened? We don't have a place to stay, and what do you need? I need a house. I need a place to stay. It's like, okay, I got you. Because what do you mean I got you? It's a lot of money, it's this, it's that. Okay, whatever you want, I got it. No, it's going to cost, 20, 30,000 shekels or something like that with deposit and this. And the guy took some of the furniture, all types of balagan. Bottom line is it was like something like 30,000 shekels or 35,000. A lot of money. A guy that makes 1,500 or 2,000 shekels a month, 30,000 shekels, pretty much has to work 3 years for it. Not happening. But he's got his wife and kids practically in the street here. So this guy, I don't know, it touched his heart. And he says, listen, I got the money, I'm going to send it to you. Yeah, but you don't have, you're not rich. Whatever, have this, whatever you need, I happen to have it in the bank. I'm going to send it to you. Doesn't even know him, like barely know each other. Something touched his heart, he decided, Rabbi told me this. So, he helps him, pays for his whole move, gets some furniture, everything he needs. 5 years passed, a few months ago. Something happened to the rich guy, whatever, the guy that had the 30,000, 40,000 shekels, and apparently he lost all of his money. He had no money. And what happened? He has to have the same situation. Same situation, he's getting evicted. Landlord is like one of these Amaleks, doesn't want to wait a day, suing this, that, all types of wonderful things. You know, there's a special merit to deal with those people. And this guy, poor guy, him, wife, kids, no place to go. Now he doesn't have the money. So even if he wants to go to another place, he doesn't have the money. And so he doesn't know what to do. Out of nowhere, he gets a phone call. Somebody knows. Hey, how you doing? Nothing. How you doing? I'm stressed out a little bit. What's going on? Why are you stressed out? No, it doesn't matter. What do you need? No, I just want to check how you doing. I don't know. I'm stressed out. I need to go get a place because we're getting kicked out. What do you need? I need a lot of money to get a new place. How much money do you need? I don't know. I need rent, month rent, 2 months rent, security, this, that. Okay, what's your bank account? What? What's your bank account? What do you mean? What do you mean my bank account? What do you need my bank account for? I'm going to send it to you right now. He sends him $26,000. Without asking, without verifying, without nothing, within 5 minutes of that conversation. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you did it for somebody else. Midah keneged midah. Now when you did it initially, you thought, oh, okay, I did a mitzvah, that's it, I didn't get paid for it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no such thing. No such thing. The tables will be turned and you're going to need something, you yourself just planted a seed for your own salvation. For your own salvation. You did it, don't worry. When you're going to need it, you're not going to have to ask. And that's how it is. That's how it is in life all the time. Mamash, I witnessed the story, it's unbelievable. But you see the stories like this all the time in my life. All the time. It's just that it's too many stories. You have a whole shiur just about stories. But it's unbelievable. How a person, when they do good, they're literally doing themselves a favor. That's why it's never a good idea to tell other people about all the good you do. Like sometimes, people for some reason feel the need to tell other people about the good they do. Oh, you know how much good I do? I pray at 5 o'clock in the morning. I read one this. I did that. I went there. I donated here. Why are you telling people about all the good stuff that you're doing? For what? Were you trying to convince them? Who cares? Even if you told them, what can they do for you anyway? Now that they know you're such a good person. Oh, maybe you're trying to remind Hashem. You think Hashem needs a reminder? By you reminding other people of all the good that you do, it's not doing anybody any good. In fact, it's doing bad. Because you're getting credit for it, you're getting kavod for it, and in essence, you're getting some of the benefit for it. It's better to stay quiet. Why? Unless you're publicizing it in order to encourage other people to do good. Because then it becomes another mitzvah, kiruv mitzvah. But it's better to stay quiet. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows exactly what you did, and don't worry. El Melech Ne'eman. God, the King, is reliable. Reliable to pay you exactly what you need and what you deserve. When? When you need it. Not when you want it. When you need it. So, a person understands how amazing HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. He never has to feel bad about the good he did and didn't get paid for it. Because you're going to need it at another time. No, but I need it now, Rabbi. If you're not getting it now, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knows you're going to need it much more later on. You need it much more later on. But the beautiful thing is that every single time somebody does good, you see it. If you follow them long enough, you're going to see how Hashem pays them in such a beautiful way, in such an unexpected way. It's unbelievable. I've merited to see this a few times in my life, and it's every time it's like you connect the dots. This is happening. It's just too similar to that, and you could easily connect the dots. This is because of this. Could be that you're going to get much more, but at the very least, you see how Hashem runs the world, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable. One thing I can tell you is that when it comes to the tzedakah, it's important to know the Torah says that when you give somebody tzedakah, somebody that lost all of his money, it says you have to feed him and give him based on what he's used to, not based on what he needs. Meaning, if he's a rich man, and he lost everything, you giving him a little sandwich with cheese in it is not tzedakah. It's not tzedakah. Why? That's not what he's used to. He's used to a steak. He's used to some big potatoes the size of his head. He's used to all types of dressings. That's what he's used to. He used to be a millionaire. So if you're giving this former millionaire a little piece of steak, a little piece of cheese, think you're doing tzedakah? It's not tzedakah. It's not tzedakah at all. Why? You're actually causing him suffering. That's what it says. You're causing him suffering. Why? Because now he didn't have anything. He was suffering. Now you give him this little piece of cheese, this $5, he's suffering even more. It's like, look what I got to. I used to be a king. I used to be this. I used to eat $150 breakfast. Now this guy thinks he's doing me a favor with $5. So you're causing him even more suffering. So if you're going to give somebody, you have to make sure you know this. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows it. And you see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unbelievable. Someone lost money, all types of horrible things happened, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he gives like he says to us to give. Nothing's missing. You used to a lot? When I give you, you're going to get a lot. You used to eat breakfast, $100 breakfast, you're going to eat $100 breakfast. You used to having the comfortable house, you're going to have a comfortable house. Yeah, but I don't have anything. You don't have anything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I have everything. When I want to give you, I'm going to give you like I tell other people to give. And it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, when a person gives, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is gracious with him. When a person is cheap, a person is doing himself a disjustice, mamash, because they're burying themselves in a place that they don't know how to get out of. But when it comes to, somebody actually asked me a question today, or a few days ago, about the issue of MaAser, and we'll finish with this point, where the mitzvah of MaAser is 10%, but the Gaon Vilna says that 20%. 20% is what you're supposed to give if you want to become rich in this life. So where's the source? In the Shulchan Aruch, in Yoreh De'ah, in Halachot Tzedakah, in Siman 249 Seif Aleph, 249 1. Rabbi Yosef Karo says, yes, a person must give based on what he sees that's needed. But if he sees that there is the need is even higher than what he can give, he should give at least 20% of his income, chomesh. Now, further, the Gaon Vilna in Igeret Agra, this is a letter that the Gaon Vilna wrote to his wife when he made a trip to Israel. He didn't know if he was going to be able to come back. In those days, it wasn't like planes and automobiles. If you made a trip, that's a long trip, very likely you didn't make it, or at least make it back. So the Gaon Vilna wrote a famous letter called Igeret Agra to his wife, and he gave her instructions, in essence, of what to do with the household, what to do with the kids, and so on and so forth. And he told her specifically that she should give chomesh. She should give 20% of whatever income whatever income she has from all the things that they had over there. Because if she gives less than that, she is committing several of the love sins, which are the worst sins in the Torah, by giving less than 20%. And then in the sefer called Keterosh, in Ot 123, Rabbi Chaim Mivolozhin writes in the name of the Gaon Vilna that whoever gives MaAser is not going to lose his money, but whoever gives Chomesh will become rich. This is in the Keterosh in Ot 123. So here we see that when it comes to giving tzedakah, there's two separate mitzvot. There's tzedakah and there's MaAser. MaAser is based on your income. Tzedakah is based on your assets, what you already have. MaAser, you give 10% of your gross income. You make $1,000 a week, you give $100. You make $500 a week, you give $50. You so on and so forth. Now a lot of people say, yeah, but if I have a lot of expenses, if I give 10% of it, I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm not going to be able to pay my expenses. That's where the Emunah test comes from. You know, some people say, yeah, but why don't you just give 10% of the net? Why don't you give 10% of the net? If you give 10% of the net, for most people, it's going to end up being like $2. Because you end up, spending so much of your money. You make $500 a week. By the time you pay your basic bills for that week, maybe you have $10 left. So your MaAser is going to be 10% of $10, $1. You think that's real? So obviously, it has to be of the gross, and that means it's an Emunah test. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Levu alai ve'ani poreah. The Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit, I believe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, borrow money to fulfill my mitzvot, like Shabbat, Chagim. You have to spend extra money for those mitzvot. Tzedakah. He says, you borrow money to do my mitzvot, I'll pay it all. You borrow on my name, he says. Levu alai ve'ani poreah. So when a person passes the test of giving the MaAser or the Chomesh, which is 20%, based on their gross, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises them that it's going to work out. May not work out in the first check, second check, third check, or even 10th check. But ultimately, for sure it's going to work out. I've seen it with my own eyes. Now, that's 10%. Anyone who gives 10%, the Gaon Vilna says, Torah promises us that that person will be protected, meaning even if there's a Great Depression in the world, financial collapse, they'll be protected. They're not going to go into the same situation as everybody else. But if a person wants to be wealthy during his life, he has to give 20%. And 20% is much harder. Not just because the number is higher, 10 times 2 is 20. Not because of that. Because in reality, it's a large chunk of money, especially as you start getting the blessing. In the beginning, when you're making $500 a week and you end up giving $100 chomesh, that's 20%. Okay, $100. I mean, if you're a relatively generous person, $100 is $100. Everybody can really, reason with giving $100. But what about HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts blessing you? You start making $30,000 a month. That means that your chomesh now is a $6,000 check. $6,000, that's a lot of money. $6,000, you can pay rent, car, this, that, depends. You can pretty much pay for your life for $6,000. So now you're thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to give the $6,000 to Kiruv? All right, crazy? No. MaAser is already enough. $3,000 enough for them. Because I'm technically giving more. I used to give 20%, it was $100, but I'm sure Hashem is happy with me. I'm giving $3,000. Failed. So the reality is, when it comes to Chomesh, it's much harder because the numbers get much bigger. You start making $100,000 a month, $20,000 check you're going to write. It's a big check. You already could start thinking about how many great things you could do with this check that you're about to give, and it starts getting much, much harder. Even though you're getting blessing. That's why the Torah in Sefer Dvarim says, don't forget God. What does it mean, don't forget God? After He gives you prosperity and reward, don't forget Him. Don't be one of these ungrateful people that you fulfilled some of His mitzvot. Hashem gives you a little bit of good in your life, a little blessing in your life, and that blessing causes you to forget Hashem. So that's why the Chomesh is a very, very big test. But if you pass it, Hashem guarantees that you'll become wealthy in this world materially, and not a day before you die. Obviously, you get to enjoy it to a certain extent. Now, this is a test for some people. Most people do not even give 10%. Don't even give 10%. They think that it's enough if they give a couple times a year. They give tzedakah, they buy on Aliyah during the Chagim. They see a campaign on the internet. They give they buy some, they donate some money here and there. But it's good to give something. It's obviously better than zero, but it's not the same. It's not the same. There's two mitzvot. There's tzedakah and then there's the MaAser. A person that wants to have financial protection, that wants to have a blessing in their parnasah, has to not only give tzedakah, which has no limitations, but also has to give the MaAser. Now, because the MaAser, even more than tzedakah, shows your real emunah in Hashem as life goes on, because it's in essence, every time you get money, you give MaAser. It's not like you don't do yourself a disjustice by saying, no, I'm going to give MaAser at the end of the year when I realize what happened. No. Give MaAser. As soon as the money comes in, you give MaAser. As the number gets bigger, the test gets bigger. So, but the point is that people that do it, they benefit. But a lot of people don't do it because it's tough. It's tough because they rationalize things and so on. So, it's highly, highly recommended for people to do it. But also, like I said yesterday in the shiur, make sure that if you're giving to the right cause and not to some Hanukkah party and Purim party and Save the Whale party. Give it to something that's going to sanctify Hashem's name. That's going to help Am Yisrael do tshuva. It's going to publicize Torah and so on. If that happens to be Bezrat Hashem organization, good. If you have another one, tell me about it. I'll donate to them too also. If it's good, it's good. Unfortunately, there's not that many good out there. But if something is good, then why not support it? But if you already have something that's good, that's where you invest all your money to. B'seder Rabotai, hopefully this answered all of your questions that you have for the day. Bezrat Hashem, we'll see each other again on Sunday, back here, Bezrat Hashem, and hopefully by then I'll also have the address of the next location. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.